let's travel back to the year 1984. Toodaloo, 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 toodaloo. I've got my rosary.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I
nah, I don't
figured
feel like getting up.
I figured might as well put that expensive rosary to good use, you
Yeah.
know? Since I couldn't sell it, I might as well wear it.
hmm You should have just worn that. No shirt.
No, nobody wants to see that yet. I don't have Ben's pecs. They're not as bulbous.
Yeah, it's too bad. I actually donated my wedding dress. Otherwise, I could have worn it today. That would have
I was
been
surprised you weren't
appropriate.
wearing lace in your like a bustier and
I
lace
know,
in your
gloves.
homage picture.
Got to keep it classy, kids.
Hmm.
The kids could be up right now.
Yeah. Mom, what are you doing?
Right. Already, like I have anxiety about posting anything like Madonna adjacent. I always have a little anxiety about posting that because my kids do follow me. So, but they're at this point,
They should be
it's not
used
that
to it.
there's, yeah, I was gonna say there's not much they haven't seen. They're both on the internet. So
Yeah.
whatever it's just
Yeah,
that it's,
your content it would be tame, Liberty.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. I mean, Madonna's posted pictures of her
Yeah,
bum in the
she
air.
has a naked book that her kids have probably seen, so
Yeah.
There's nothing
Just
like that in
imagine
my
all the,
history.
isn't that funny? All the effort we had to go through, and the kids are just like, boop, boop. Oh, okay.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Just,
Yeah.
wow.
All
Yeah.
right, how about we
Yeah.
kick off?
Let's do this. You're listening to MLVC, the Madonna podcast, your place for all things Madonna Louise Veronica Ciccone. Good morning, everyone. How are you today?
Hey guys, it's Tony, and I get up again over and over.
Well, it's Ben, and we want you to stay while we have this very interesting conversation of time travel.
And you must be an angel, everybody. It's Stefan.
Yes.
Welcome to another episode of MLVC. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but today on the show, we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of Madonna's 1984 studio album, Like a Virgin. Released on November 12th, 1984 on Sire Records. It was the follow-up album to her debut, produced by Nile Rodgers. It became Madonna's first #1 album. It was the first album by a female to sell over 5 million copies, and it still remains one of the best-selling albums of all time. We are going to deep dive on all things Like a Virgin, the songs, the videos, the looks. Yeah, so let's jump in. What do we think of Like a Virgin? Do we all have memories of Like a Virgin from back then? Because this
Yes.
was a long time ago. We were all around for this, but
Hmm.
Ben, you said you did.
Oh, I have very clear memories of it. Mostly because of like, I didn't see the MTV Awards at the time, but I remember Entertainment Tonight talking about it and just being like, oh, wow, Madonna's kind of changing it up. Because I knew who she was from the first album, because I would have been 10 that late summer of those awards and that performance. And I was like, oh, okay. And and I remember how it kind of rolled out. And I remember seeing the Like a Virgin video on not Friday night videos, but there used to be like a Saturday afternoon video thing on our local channel that played at like 12:30. So we would be home on the farm for lunch. And we didn't have Young and the Restless on Saturday, so I got to watch videos.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, I remember seeing the video and thinking, "Oh wow, I love the video." But the song wasn't like my jam, and neither was Material Girl. It wasn't until I heard the cassette, and I mean, Dress You Up, Angel, Stay, those were my jams.
Hmm.
And then of course, Crazy for You and Into the Groove are like two of my favorite Madonna songs. So
Even though they are not
yeah.
included on the album.
Right.
Technically.
As we know, although one of my cousins had a had gotten an import that had them on it at the time. Who knows where that is
Into the
now,
Groove
but
was released on the international version
Mhm.
in
yeah,
1985. I think
yeah.
they did a re-release and it was included on there. I'm actually kind of glad it's not on the official version because to
Mhm.
me that song would seem out of place on the
Yeah.
album.
Oh,
Um,
totally.
I think the one thing I noticed re-listening to this album, and I've had it on rotation, it's not one of those albums I necessarily go to listen to from the beginning to the end. Unlike some of her later albums, I do feel this is one of her more cohesive earlier albums. You can definitely tell the difference between the first album and the second album. Like the first album is just like a smattering of singles, whereas this you can tell she sort of sat down with Nile Rodgers and they had a cohesive plan of like, let's have a bit of a flow, and they cohesively collected the songs. But I still think it sounds very, I mean, to me, this is a no skip. Like
Mhm.
there are no skips on this album. It's, I mean, it's short. It's 9 songs.
Mhm.
I think it clocks in under 40 minutes, so it's like a quick listen. But yeah, I mean, so many of these songs are quintessential, not only just Madonna songs, but just 80s songs. Like when you hear these songs, they sound 80s, but not dated 80s. And
Mhm.
I think the only two that might sound quote unquote dated 80s would be the two big singles, Material Girl and Like a Virgin. Like those two, it's like when you hear them, you are thrown back to the age of those big banner pop stars, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, George Michael and Wham, Madonna. Like that's what I, when I hear those songs, just the beginning of Material Girl or bam, 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 those throw you back to that time. Tony, what do you remember about when this album came out?
Well, I remember the song being out in 84, but I only remember it fleetingly from it being on MTV and from being on the MTV Awards, her performing it. And I kind of just, it was just part of the atmosphere. It was part of what was going on. We came from a generation, we listened to the radio, so we heard that song all day long. Then my birthday, I turned 11 in January. I had a birthday party, and my friend Andrea gave me the vinyl album of Like a Virgin, and I was like, "Oh wow, cool." It was my first Madonna album, and I remember listening to side A, and that was it. I heard it and I put it away. Cut to Valentine's Day. We had a dance at school, and Material Girl came on, and I was dancing with this girl. And suddenly I was like, oh, this is Madonna. This is that song from that album. And then I went home and I listened to it and the whole thing. And from then on, it was just that was my favorite record. And then Into the Groove came out, and then like 85 was like my big year being a Madonna fan who couldn't dress like Madonna in the mall like everyone else.
Liberty, do you remember when this album came out, or were you too? You were a you were a wee lass.
Yes, I wasn't even born yet. No, actually, so I don't think I remember the actual release without for obvious reasons. I mean, I've mentioned before, I didn't have access to
Yes,
sort of
remember you were locked
cable
in
or
the
whatever.
basement as a young
Hmm.
child, right?
Mhm.
Without
Yeah.
you barely food and water was lowered on a in a bucket.
Yeah.
Right, right. As you were shoveling
Yes.
coal to help keep the upstairs elders, right? I remember. Yeah,
Yeah. And then we would go underground to like
yeah.
have our
Right, right.
secret MTV.
Liberty was the original Harry Potter. She lived under the stairs. It was, yeah.
Yes, I did. Um, but I do remember this that my mom was a hairstylist, or hair artist, if you will, at the time. She had her little salon, and there was a lady who worked for her, and I was my mom's guinea pig, so I was always getting the perm. I was always getting the bowl cut, the mullet, all of the things. This lady who worked for her, she would do like makeup. And she was like, "Oh, let me make up, your daughter, right?" So she's putting on all this makeup. And I'm thinking like I probably am about eight or so years old. I'm like getting the smoky eye, and my hair's like larger than life, poofy. And the girl's like, "This is who I've styled you after." And she had the Like a Virgin cassette. And I remember thinking like, my mom is going to freak because I already had the first album. I had begged for it at Kmart and all of that. But so I remember like when I see the Like a Virgin cassette, right, and I'm like, "Oh, I know Madonna," or I'm cognizant, like aware enough to know who that is. And of course, then I needed the record, but I was extremely disappointed that Into the Groove wasn't on it, because I loved that song. Thinking like maybe I've bought the wrong one or something. So I remember a lot of confusion in my, like, wait, are the songs that I love, like Crazy
Right.
for
You're like,
You, or
it's all an illusion. There's
yeah,
too much confusion. Oh no,
like
not too soon, too soon.
right, is this lady just a pretender? But yeah, I just had that's the only really like real memory. I remember also thinking like these are songs as a young girl, these are songs I'm supposed to like, right?
Mm,
Material Girl, and like a Virgin, so popular, right? But no idea what Virgin meant
right.
or was.
I
What
loved
even
the 80s where they were like we as children were exposed to songs where it's like no one explained to us anything about the meaning of any of these songs. We were just hearing them in full rotation. Like I
Oh
remember
yeah.
as a child, like a Virgin, like that was a song. Like Me So Horny was out on the radio.
Sugar Walls.
Like
Yeah, yeah. I remember riding my bike singing Sugar Walls
she
and
cherry pie, but like
Darling
Samantha Fox,
Nikki.
I want to have some fun. Like there was a lot of mature adult
for
content
sure.
that we were being exposed to, and no one explained to us any of it. We just sort of
No.
had to like figure it out. And so it's
Right.
like a Virgin. I think that was one of those songs where I was not really into music that when that album was coming out. You knew about them. Like you heard Like a Virgin, you heard Material Girl because they were sort of everywhere. They were like ubiquitous to the 80s. I didn't have
hmm
MTV at the time, but Madonna didn't, as I've said many times, Madonna didn't pop on my radar until like maybe 2 years after when the Betamax version of the Virgin Tour was on and it was played at a birthday party that I was at. And I was like, who's this? And um but yeah, and Dress You Up, like I think Dress You Up was the first time I put two and two together of like who it was and what the music was. And then I sort of like binged all of the previous Madonna albums. And I guess the Who's That Girl soundtrack and then Spotlight, that was sort of like my first like
So You Can
official,
Dance, the whole
yeah, You
remix
Can Dance.
record.
Yeah. That was sort of like the first time I ever realized that, oh, Madonna's making this great music.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, let's jump in and we'll do a little song by song analysis because we've never done that for this album. And yeah, it's kind of just fun to sort of like walk down memory lane. And obviously, the first song on the album, but the second single of the record is Material Girl. Interestingly, not written by Madonna. That's what I think is most interesting about this album. It's probably the last time you get an album that has more than one song not written by Madonna or that she like
hmm
didn't contribute to any of the lyrics. I have a feeling this was the album where she learned not to do that going forward
hmm
because you never see that behavior repeated again. Yes, she's given songs in her career after this album, but noticeably she always tweaks a couple of little lyrics so she gets that songwriting credit because I have a
Yeah.
feeling after the huge success of this album, she's like, "Wait, you're telling me I don't get all the money for this?" You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Like what do you mean I have to give checks to these songwriters? And interestingly enough, a lot of people are also complaining, why doesn't she sing Material Girl? I want to hear Like a Virgin on this
Yeah.
tour. Well, she's not getting paid for that if she
Yeah.
sings it on tour. So why would she want to sing it? Like she's a businesswoman. She wants to get paid, So I
Yeah.
don't blame
And
her for not singing.
Billy Steinberg's talked about how much money that song made him, Like a Virgin, that
Oh,
he
yeah.
basically was like set for life.
Yeah, he was
Mm.
he was up at the ivory tower, like shouting down, be like, I made a lot
Yeah.
of money, you know. But yeah, Material Girl, I mean, again, like I said, iconic 80s. You
Yeah.
can't watch this video and hear this song and not think of the 80s when it's
Mhm.
like, and she's beautifully brilliant in the video.
hmm
The satire of Marilyn Monroe. And I think this is when those comparisons to her wanting to be Marilyn Monroe, I always remember that was
Oh,
all
for
over the place.
sure.
Like she wants to be Marilyn Monroe. Like that's how this started.
hmm
Um,
But then you watch the video and like I guess I was old enough when I watched the video. I was like, wait a second. She's not actually promoting being a material girl in the video. She's the down home girl hanging out with her gays on the steps and all their hoop earrings, and she's just looking for a dude who's going to treat her right. And so the sort of classic love story buried underneath it just kind of got lost to most people, which is
Yeah.
so fascinating. I mean, for me, the song is meh. It's all the video. The video is
Hmm.
everything and all that it encapsulates about her then aesthetic and vibe and energy. So,
She's very Susan in this video. You know, like in the
yes.
very beginning when you have, yeah, he's still after me. Yeah, he thinks he can impress me by buying me expensive gifts. I don't know. It's cute though. Do you want it? And
Hmm.
like that whole plot line that they have underneath that. And yes, Ben, the gay on the stairs in that one shot outtake where it's like, that's right. Or, you know, like what is it's the I think that's the line. No, somebody's going to call me out on that. That's not the line. I know that's not the line. I forget what the line is. I know that's not the line. Don't come to me in the DMs. Okay. It's
That's not
early.
what I was paying attention to in that scene.
No, but she does. She's like,
oh,
no way. That's it. That's it. See, it's early,
Wait,
people.
was that guy supposed to be gay? Because if
I don't think he
he is,
was. I
oh,
don't think he was, but he's clearly gay.
oh,
he's
because that's the
clearly.
first time I ever thought of that in that context.
Oh, go back and watch it. It's so queer coded. And then, because I remember as a kid, because I had gay uncles who were her age and were huge Madonna fans, you know, and so I was like, oh, wait, what? And then of course I was like, okay, how many of these dancers in this video are gay?
Totally.
Because
Sure.
dancers, yada yada yada. And this is at 10, I'm thinking about this because I was able to dial into that aesthetic just from my own real world exposure. So
Hmm.
that's funny that you say that, Tony, because to me, that flash of a scene, it's a quick cut. I was just like, oh, he
And so
gay.
out of place too, because like it's the only shot where that happens. Like you never go back to that setup of any time. I'm like, where,
Right.
what is this little moment here? But yeah, it's.
But it's
Yeah,
part
I
of the
always thought
subplot.
I always
It's
yeah.
thought it
it's
was
the
her hanging out with her
subplot.
gay friends. You know.
Yeah,
I
it's
always thought it was like it was an off-duty moment. This is one of the guys that she was shooting the movie with, and they were just not, they're on the stairs or whatever. But I never I thought maybe it was like the guy who was trying to date her, and she was like, no. Yeah.
I'm gonna pretend it was the guy she was. So we all think in the beginning she's on the phone with the gal pal. I think it was that gay best friend that she was on the stairs
Oh,
with.
yes.
yeah.
I think that's who it was.
Makes
Wow,
sense.
this
Yeah.
completely
I think we
like
solved it.
yeah, I mean
Allyship
the
from day
mystery
one. I'm
the
just telling
mystery of
you.
Material Girl has been revealed.
And I
Mm-hmm.
love at the very end of Material Girl when she made. Oh, and I mean, again, the two guys in the very beginning. She's a huge star. She is a star, George, the biggest star in the world as we speak. Like, I love the gravity of that moment where it's like you don't even know who she is. I mean, I think I remember the first time seeing this. I'm like, why are they making such a big deal out of her? But you sort of believe them because they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to meet her, George. Sure, but anytime you now. And he just kind of looks at him and like, but I love at the end of the video when she's with the guy who like basically cons her. I mean, he sort of like cons her into believing he's not a big deal because he like knows that she doesn't want the expensive things. So he shows up with like some hand-picked daisies that some poor intern probably had to go and pick from the neighbor's yard or something just to make Madonna believe he wasn't, he shows up with that fake truck and whatnot that he stole from props. But at the very end, they're all making out. And I thought that it's sort of like this rain tattered window. And I was like, this is very rain video where Madonna's
Oh,
making out in
Hmm.
front of the rain tattered glass. I was like, oh, see calls that she
yeah.
knew
But
where she was going.
on this, I always think of the parallel of of all of those lines about like, oh, she's the biggest star in the world and I want to meet her right now, and that she meets Sean Penn on that set. Like I've always thought about how that is a strange parallel, like art imitating life, life imitating art. And we got lucky enough to hear that story firsthand, well,
Hmm.
ish, right from James Foley,
Mm-hmm.
when he told about how Sean was like, let's go, I want to meet her. Like, oh, I know where she's filming right now. Like we can go down there. Yeah, incredible. I think that happened. But musically, for me, this song has this like the most recognizable bass line, like a little bit like Walk Like an Egyptian, right? Where it's just like it. You can hear like a half a second, a half a beat, and you know exactly like which song that is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, musically, it's one of the most recognizable songs she has, I
Hmm.
think.
Yeah, and I love that sort of, the conversation that Nile Rodgers had with her because obviously because of the success of her first album, Sire Records was like, who do you want to work with? And she was just like, she wanted a mega producer to work on this. And because of the success of In Excess and Chic
David
and Michael
Bowie.
Jackson and David Bowie, Madonna handpicked Nile Rodgers. And she's even said it. She's like, I can't believe that they let me work with him because he was this huge producer at the time. But you can sort of hear that, they had taken all of the songs and Nile Rodgers enjoyed what Madonna and Stephen Bray had done in some of the demos, but it still sounded a little too much like her first album. So they wanted to make it a little bit more mature, and they basically used bigger, grander instrumentation. So there was like actual instruments as opposed to just making it electronic synths. I think you can hear the difference. It sounds far more expensive. It definitely sounds more polished. Most notably, and I guess I'm skipping ahead, but for Stay, I adore that demo of Stay that she did with Steve Bray. It's so good, but it is very first album. And then when you hear the new one, I mean, those drums alone, like it's like this sort of tumbling thunder, and it's just great. Anyway, we're skipping ahead. Let's move on to second song on the album, third single of the record, Angel, written by Madonna and Stephen Bray. I challenge anyone to be able to listen to this song and hear that bum, 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 bum in the beginning. And then if you're not won over by the time she laughs, just get out, get off my street, just leave the conversation, because this is, I think, one of Madonna's most iconic early songs. Again, we've said it on the show many times. You will still hear this song on adult contemporary radio. And when you go shopping for your Friday night ice cream, Ben and Jerry's, to weep into your shopping cart while you're eating
It's a
kale chips or
Walgreens
something.
staple.
Totally. Yeah. I need dental floss and, some after shower bath oil, it's plain.
Yeah, when I was growing up in Houston, this is the song they played the most on the radio. So as far as like an imprint that Like a Virgin made, I always think of Angel because it was the one song that played once an hour on pop radio, even more so than Material Girl and Like a Virgin. It must have been like a local favorite. I still don't know why, but
I think
I'm
Angel was
grateful.
played a lot because it wasn't controversial.
Right.
If you think about Like a Virgin and even Material Girl in terms of the content of that song, Angel's not controversial in any way.
It's a safer.
Yeah, I really do. But oddly enough, wasn't given a video. I think that's one of the crimes about this album is Angel was never given a video. And I'm like, what?
And I don't love the 12-inch remix. It just feels a little like stop and start, and you don't really get into the meat of the song.
I think for this, I love this song enough that I did a cover. It's on Spotify.
It's very good, Liberty. Very faithful.
Thanks.
You didn't depart very far from it.
No, I just
really
love
good.
the original. Thank you. I just love the original arrangement. It could be a beautiful ballad. I mean, deconstructed if you wanted to, but it's just it's buoyant, it's joyful. You're not happy. There's no way you could not be happy after that, and you always have in your mind sort of an image of like who is your angel, who do you feel that way about. It's relatable, I think, and just it's a maturer sounding song. I think it drifts a little bit from those two sort of kiddish, sort of less mature songs, Material Girl and Like a Virgin. Those are playful too, but in a totally different direction.
Yeah.
Yes, she sings lower in this one that we get more in the front in the next album, but it's definitely like that, it's down there. So I love the song. I'm like Tony. They played it on the radio where I grew up more than any of this, and Crazy for You were all over the radio in the winter of 85. Like if you had the radio on, they played both of those songs, Angel and Crazy for You, almost every hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time. Back then when Madonna was like always around, she just was there in the background. I mean, I love the song. I think I might have said to Stephen Bray when we had him on the show, thank you for all the music that you gave us with Madonna, because I'm just curious. I would love to hear some of the stuff that they didn't put on this album, because I think Stephen Bray and Madonna had written more than what actually landed on there. So like, Madonna, Whenever you get around to releasing the reissue for
Yeah,
this album,
right.
please give us some unheard treats from the vault. That would be wonderful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Next up, third song on the album, first single of the record, Like a Virgin, not written by Madonna as well. She had premiered this song at Keith Haring's party in May, as well as Just You Up. And then, of course, the world got to hear this song for the very first time at the September VMAs. And then in December, Pink Donna sang the song on Top of the Pops.
Yeah.
I think that was the first time we saw Pink Donna. Again, if I got this wrong, thank you for abusing me in my direct messages, people, because you all know better. So, but yeah, what did we think about Like a Virgin? I mean, I rewatched the video, and so in the video, it starts with her getting off a boat in New York City, and then we're magically transported to the
Venice.
the canals of Venice.
Yeah, it's her romantic dream with her romantic ideal who has no face.
Yes,
Well, it
it's
could
very
be not a
Beauty and the
person, right? I
very
mean,
Beauty and the Beast, or
Mhm.
very like Phantom of the Opera. I
Yeah.
like him wearing that little lion mask.
But also there's like that Venetian tradition where they would have masquerade balls, so there's that, you know, iconography, I guess. But yeah, it's a beautiful video, and it's people a lot of people were doing performance style videos, or you know, I don't know, just stuff that looked very cheap, and then suddenly Madonna's in Europe, she's in Venice and on location, and she made this video with a lion. It's iconic.
yeah, the gondola, that like the dancing there at the tip. I'm like, please, 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 please be careful.
Mhm.
Do not one wrong step and you're swimming in the
Yeah.
sludge. But maybe it's a metaphorical, like if she's stepping off, a boat in New York, is this like the arrival to New York, and sort of this the lion is sort of this beast of the music industry she's trying to conquer and like marry into, right? Is sort of, I don't know, maybe I'm off in some other planet there, but I don't know. I never got it as like a guy romance, like a thinking about it in terms of a guy. And actually, this song was kind of meh to me for a very long time, until Blonde Ambition tour, where I was like, oh, that I like. That version to me is much more mysterious and much more um dangerous, I think.
Mm.
I loved it a lot then, and then of course again on MDNA tour, to the point where I was like, I have to have I made it through the wilderness tattooed on me, because I just love the idea of getting through something so challenging or so difficult, and rising to be the lion yourself.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that
It's funny.
this. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
Well, I was just going to say, like Liberty, when I think of this song, I also do not think of the original video. I think of Blonde Ambition and the whole metaphor that's going on there and all the different subtexts, whether she intended them or not. 30s plus years later, on the backside of most queer theory and like that, you can watch that and be like, okay, then. And it takes the sort of idea of a virgin and totally flips it on its head and gives it like a whole new context. It was just so interesting. Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
why
It's
it is art, right? I mean, you have to think about, like, people want to chalk this up as like, it's pop. It's not really art. It is 100% pop art, because it is driving conversation around what the interpretations could be, and you're going to have a different
yeah,
interpretation
yeah.
than I will,
Well,
and she would.
yeah, I was gonna say that's part of what makes it art is that it continues to change and adapt and sustain.
Yeah.
Like, who would have thought, I'll be honest, in 1984, if you would have told me that she would do this song on different tours 10, 15, 20 years later, and especially with the MDNA tour and that section and what she was saying in that moment, like I would have laughed. 10-year-old me would have been like, okay, sure, but it's
Right.
fun, let's dance. But yeah,
Well,
like,
that's why
yeah,
I think in that moment of Truth or Dare, when you see Nikki being like, Madonna tour 2024 or whatever it was, and she's like a virgin, she's humping the gondola that they're riding on, and it's like you laugh at it because you think, oh yeah, there's no way she's going to be performing this in the future. That would just seem ridiculous, and then she does, and I loved always that this was one of the songs that she contorted the most. Like out of all of her songs, Like a Virgin became the song to reinterpret over and over and over again. I remember not liking the version of it in Blonde Ambition because I wanted her to do shocking. I wanted her to do the dance song. I appreciate the slow down version now. I think the girly show version was a little too slow for me. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, again, this is one of those definitive 80s anthems, whether you think of Madonna or not. I think I'd heard this song before I knew who Madonna was because of the radio. And I think hearing the hey, or like all of her little high parts, I remember thinking, oh, this person's trying to be Michael Jackson because Michael Jackson had his hee, and so I figured, oh, this is what you do in the 80s. You have these little high parts and that's what you do. But yeah, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Well,
Can I just say, in defense of Like a Virgin from the girly show, that was camp. However, it opened the door to that section of the tour where we got Bye Bye Baby, I'm Going Bananas, and that version of that immortal, forever amazing version of La Isla Bonita. So that's all I will say.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Next up, we have Over and Over, written by Madonna and Stephen Bray. I mean, I love this song just for and I think it's interesting, the songwriting skills between Madonna and Stephen Bray. You can tell they love hooks for sure. You can tell they love repetition because there's a lot of like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And a lot of stuff like another couple of songs, they have repetition as well. I will say though, my favorite version of Over and Over is the You Can Dance version. That bump, 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 bump. Like that bass on the opening of that remix is so good. It's so good.
Yeah, this was a song I skipped on the album and didn't revisit until You Can Dance. And then suddenly I like, oh, this song, because I always thought when you get You Can Dance, you're like, wait, Over and Over wasn't a single. This is a holdover from Like a Virgin. Why is it here? And then it just fits in perfectly. So I'm glad that we got that second look at Over and Over because I feel like it kind of got lost on the album.
I feel like it's lost overall in her catalog, even though it's such an amazing song, message-wise, specifically to her, that she should revisit that at any time, and we'd be like, yes. And it's a message that I wish that I had internalized more at that age, where, failure is a lesson, right? Failure is not the end. It's the lesson, and you just get up, you try it again, and there's so many like one-liners in this song that just, as a 47-year-old like woman, like I tell myself, right, I got past my first mistake, got to give it up, or I can't relate. Like it's gripping, I think, message-wise.
Yeah, it's very on brand for her. Very early on. And I love,
I think of it. Yeah, well, I was just going to say, I think of it as the original Express Yourself, Don't Stop, Don't Tell Me, Give It to Me. I mean, it's that template, right?
It's
she sounds good. She sounds good in it too.
She does.
Oh yeah.
After Over and Over, we have the album's only ballad, Love Don't Live Here Anymore. It's a cover, another song not written by Madonna. Nile Rodgers. So here's a quick question to the group. Is that indeed Nile Rodgers on backup vocals? According to Spotify, he is listed as performed by Madonna and Nile Rodgers. So I'm assuming the man's vocals that you hear in that is Nile Rodgers, which I did not know.
Yeah, he brought that song to the project because it was a band called Rose Royce that was produced by him and Bernard Edwards, who also did Chic and Sister Sledge. So this song was kind of like a minor hit because I remember hearing it like at the roller rink or on like R&B radio, but I heard this on the album, I was like, oh, this is someone else's song, but I like her singing it better because she was basically screaming and having a breakdown, and I
Mm.
was there for it because I loved pop music with high drama, like Holding Out for a Hero and,
Yep, me too.
stuff like that. So Madonna was doing her histrionics, and I was like, oh, this is what I like about her, I think.
Yeah, her voice is very emotional in this
Mhm.
song, and I think it's not definitely her strongest vocals that she gets later on in her career, but I think what she does with her voice at that time in her career, she sells it. There's a performance to it, and like at the end, you almost hear her break into tears, and yeah, it's good. I love this song. I mean, come on, anytime Madonna has violins in a song, sign me up. Like I'm
Oh
on board.
yeah.
I mean, come on. The moment she did the bit in Rebel Heart, like how amazing that
I
was
know.
when she trotted, like you heard the violins and then she started singing it. The gays around me at the one show I saw in Philly, people were freaking out. And I was like,
Right.
yeah, because we haven't heard this from her since forever. And it was great.
Something to remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I loved it when it came back as a single, as a remix with the video, and I was like, "Oh, we waited a
Hmm.
long time for this."
Yeah, I know it's very strange that like 10 years later it pops up on something to remember, and then we get a video that she filmed on her day off of Evita. Like
Right.
it's like, oh hey, Jean-Baptiste Mondino, pop me in this black lacy outfit and film me riding up against a marble pillar. I like that we got it. I thought it was strange that we did. It was, and I felt like we didn't get close enough to her fast enough. Like it was sort of like we were slow going in, slow going in. We were on her face, and then it was like we were pulling back. I'm like, come on, can we stay with her a little bit?
Yeah, I think from a singer standpoint, this was definitely I think a stretch for her, but it was an attempt to show I am capable of so much more. And you can peg me all you want, but you're not going to be successful in that because I'm going to show you that I actually have a power here. I actually have the ability to give a character delivery through song. Um, and that's also what's great about this album is that there's a lot of character. There's so many different
Yeah.
roles she plays. This is just one face. Um, and she has that drop, not only the drama, right, but this sort of um like a teardrop in the voice almost where it just pulls this feeling out of you of how hurt she's been what in whatever and you can relate to it. Of course you can because everybody's
Yeah,
had that
it's
feeling.
almost like whereas in future albums she changes her physical persona, the album she's changing not her physical looks, but she's changing the person in each story of the songs. Like the songs differ from person to person to person, so it's almost like small initial hints
Hmm.
of what's to come when she eventually in the next album completely changes her look.
Yeah.
Right.
um
Also having to make each of these songs her own, the ones that she didn't write,
right.
trying to find the personality in the songs. Because it
Right.
must have been daunting for her after kind of cobbling together her first album to come into an A&R situation where they're like, these are the songs that were submitted for this project. This is the producer. This is what's going to happen. And, it must have been kind of like her head was spinning, like, oh, is this how it works? Because she's very DIY up until that moment, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, right. I mean, she even said she was going to produce the album herself,
Yeah,
and Sire Records was like, "No, you can't do that." Like
yeah.
they had too much writing on it.
Hmm.
They needed this to be a home run for her, and it was good, and it's smart. But I think she also, they've said that she was even on days when Nile Rodgers was not in the studio, she was there. Like she didn't have to be, but she was there. And of course, I'm
Hmm.
like, she's learning. She's soaking it up. Let's learn from the people she's working with, which I think goes to show why she's so involved in her career. She's so hands-on. Like that hasn't changed. If
Yeah,
anything, it's
That
gotten more.
certainly hasn't.
there's all those interviews from the era when she was kind of frustrated because she had to finish out the cycle of the first album. She couldn't release the new single, and Borderline was still huge, and she's like, I just want to do it all now. I don't want to wait
Mhm.
for single releases. I want it all coming out now, and I love that about her because, when you saw other artists on MTV being interviewed, they didn't have that kind of gravitas about their career. They're just like, yeah, we got a tour, we got an
Mm.
album and songs on the radio, go listen. And she was like,
So
Yeah.
no.
so interesting how things have changed with Madonna. Back then, she was being forced to not release music,
Yeah.
even though she had it. Now we can't get her to release music, even if she wants it. It's so God. Oh, Madonna.
We should, for the record, because there's discussion about it in the chat, we should remind viewers and listeners that Love Don't Live It Here Anymore was originally recorded by Rose Royce, but most people don't know them for that song. They know them for Car Wash
Yep.
and the soundtrack to that movie from the late 70s. So just so to give people some reference, because yeah, they actually weren't Nile Rodgers. Like they were sort of contemporaries to Nile of
Hmm.
Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards. They were like a whole other group. So
Yeah.
Oh.
yeah. Also
Next,
very fun 70s R&B disco music. So
Hmm.
well, I think that's what's great about Nile Rodgers working on this project is he sort of brought that to Madonna and, made it her own and made it her sound. Um, Next up, we had Dress You Up. It was the fourth and final single of the album. Again, another song not written by Madonna, but another song that I think is iconic 80s. I mean, the opening of her in Virgin Tour coming down the stairs and singing this song, come on.
Yeah.
It's magic. And I mean, that don't, and then it goes into it. It's just good. It's golden. It's wonderful. She sounds amazing. And this is a fantastic song to karaoke to. Everybody knows it.
Oh,
It's
okay.
upbeat. It's fun. It doesn't require Celine Dion style vocals. I highly recommend this at your next karaoke party.
I have
Um,
a weird memory about this song. I remember there was like it must have been Entertainment Tonight or PM Magazine or one of these things. And I remember I was eating dinner and the TV was on, and they're like, up next, we're going to talk to the two songwriters of Madonna's new single. And I'm like, okay, what is it? And it was two New Jersey housewives who wrote Dress You Up and submitted it to the record company. And Madonna recorded their song, and they show these women, like picking their kids up and, hanging around the kitchen. And they're like, yeah, we haven't met Madonna yet. Hopefully, maybe one day we will. And that was the first and the last time I ever heard about those women. But, and I also remember they're like, yeah, we got more songs, we're going to come out with more songs. And I mean, I don't know, but it just has this weird lore. That Dress You Up was written by these two random women, and when it just screams Madonna from beginning to end.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great song. I mean, I love it's a shame we don't get this more from her,
Hmm.
even as like a wink, wink. But I mean, I guess I'm happy that it did appear in that little medley that she did on Rebel Heart Tour. But again, because that was done so folky, it was
Yeah.
like it wasn't like to me, it didn't have the heft of Dress You Up, and I again would have wanted her, like full on dance, like give me a tambourine, Madonna, come on, just let me say it, let me say it. Um, but yeah, this is one of those Madonna songs like I can listen to over and over and over again, and I don't tire of it. I just love it. Next up, we've got Shoo-Bee-Doo, written by Madonna. I have two questions. Is Shoo-Bee-Doo the name of her lover in the song, or is it a code word for her having sex? I'm being facetious, but like
I think it's, yeah.
when I first
Like,
heard the album, I was like, Shoo-Bee-Doo. I'm like, what? What does this mean?
It's silly. I mean, but to me it sits alongside like a bird on the wingy, wingy, wingy. Like it's silly to me. It's not a. It's a non-word, if you will.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember when I first heard it, I thought it was just like a girl group,
Hmm. And it could,
throwback, you
yeah, it
know?
could be like sort of that influence, and I think she has grown up on that. Um, you
Oh, it's
know,
totally Motown. Like
Yeah.
mhm.
when you think of it realistically, it's like, oh yeah, this is her like overt nod to
Love.
the Shirelles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that
Absolutely.
there's saxophone on this song. I love that. I mean, we need more of that today, if I'm honest. But yeah,
Hmm.
love that. It's it's sexy, right?
Yeah.
Oh, she's very sexy in the song, you know, like "Come to Me, Baby," and what's there's like spoken word that she's got, you know, like in
Come
the
here,
song.
baby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good.
Yeah.
It's almost again the flavors of her sort of like the foundation she laid in physical attraction,
Hmm.
and we've got that little moment in Shoo-Bee-Doo. It's like, well, yeah, that's of course we got Justify My Love a couple
Yeah.
years later, you know,
I
like
was gonna say
that's
I call it Baby Dita.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's sweet. It's a little, you know, that this is like Dita before the clothes come off, you know.
Yeah. She
But
can't take it anymore,
yeah, this is Dita before you find out she's got a whip in the car, you know.
It's the sunset, not after dark. It's just right at
Right.
dusk.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. Yeah.
They're cruising back to her dungeon.
Right.
Yeah, she's all sweet in the passenger seat, and then she's like she gets to the house and it's like, now I'm driving.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's a good song though. I think it's kind of she sounds great in the song.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But I can understand it like it doesn't it's sort of people make fun of this, right? Like, a lot of people will have like, oh, silly song lists that are going to be on the tour, right? Oh, there's going to be a whole section with Jimmy Jimmy, Shoo-Bee-Doo, and Spanish lesson.
Keep
Um,
dreaming.
yeah, and but I always think like, wait a minute, why are we discounting this song? Like, honestly, it is good, and people want to sort of write it off just because of the silly word title.
Yeah.
I feel like that's sad because it could have been called like I Want You or something instead, and maybe people wouldn't feel that way about it. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, it's got like you're judging the book by the cover type
Yeah,
of thing where
it's not
it's
fluffy.
yeah. Um, Up next, we've got Pretender, written by Madonna and Stephen Bray. This is one of those songs, again, there's a lot of repetition. You lied, you lied, you lied, you lied. I love that.
Me
That
too.
breakdown is heaven. Uh, my only problem with Pretender, and I love Pretender, I think it's a great song, is what on earth does the fish that got away have to do with being a pretender? Like, did are we pretending that we caught the fish and it got away and we didn't realize it jumped out of the bucket back into the lake? Or like, where's the fish that got away coming into being a pretender? Like, that's the
Well,
only lyric I've never grasped in
the
this.
guy's he pretended to be in love with me, and I thought he was my next boyfriend, but he ended up being the fish that got away.
Okay. Thank you. That makes sense to me. But yeah,
Like a virgin.
I just always felt like the fish that got away. And I was like, what? We're what? You know,
She's just always good at like employing these little metaphor, if you
Yeah.
will, that may or may not fit, but you in your brain will make those connections like, oh yeah, it works. It works. I get it. Uh-huh. You sort of excuse maybe it might not. Because I never like until you just mentioned it, I was like, wait a minute, yeah, that's true. Like linguistically, how does this pair up with the rest? But it's just whenever Madonna says I'm like, okay, yes, ma'am. So
Yeah.
whatever you say, Madonna.
yeah,
Yeah, but no, but this is a good song. I made a long time. This is probably back when I used to practice my guitar with any sort of fidelity. I did a little acoustic version of Pretender. Uh, it's fun. It's a fun song.
Catchy. I mean,
Hmm.
again,
Yep.
Bray and Madonna, they love their hooks, you know, like it's full of it. And
Hmm.
yeah, that you lied part. I love that it's
It's
like
so good.
so repetitious, but it just
Uh-huh.
works really
I
good.
know all about your kind. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's also, I think, one of the like Madonna has a very good way of talking about relationships and love. And I feel like this is again one of those moments where it's like she's been spurned by a guy and she's just like angry Madonna almost, you know? Like it's sort of like the what love spent Madonna a little
Mhm.
many years before almost. After Pretender, we have our final song on the original released album called Stay, written by Madonna and Bray. Again, like I said, those drums, like it's just so good. It's like this, like almost like waterfall of drums. If you've not yet heard the demo, go on YouTube. It's there. It was on pre-Madonna, I think.
Yeah.
Right. Stephen Bray released like he got in trouble for releasing this, but he had the rights to release some of the demos, and so he did. So thank you, Stephen Bray, for releasing some of those demos because they're great. The Stay demo it's very different, synthy and early, like almost like everybody version of this song, but yeah, it's great. I think how they matured it and grew it up for the album was fantastic. And it's a great, again, we always talk about wanting to sort of see Madonna's creative process a little bit more. So to be able to hear the demo and it's very different and stark, and then hear how they changed it
Yeah.
is fun.
Yeah, this is one of those songs that I except for Dress You Up, I never really listened to side two that much. I don't know why. It just never really hit me until high school, and my best girlfriend and I would drive to school and just play Madonna tapes. And when I finally heard side two all the way through and Stay was the final song, I was like, where has this song been hiding the whole time? In my record, unbeknownst to me, but that became like my favorite song for the longest time. I just thought it just like it started out fast and it just had everything you want in a Madonna song. Oh, I still love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do too. And it's a really good song to end with because it's like, stick around, right? There's more. And it's such a high note overall. It's like, again, it's sort of a forward song in the sense that like there's more to come. I'm capable of so much more. This is just your taste. That's why being that this is such a succinct album lengthwise and amount of songs, it's to me it leaves me wanting more. Like, okay, I will stay. And then I'm always sad because I think I can't believe that's the last.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
more. Put more on there. And so you're like driven to put on, the next album, let's say, or even the You Can Dance record because you just want to keep going. And I remember reading a lot later in the 80s or maybe it was 90s, right, with Paula Abdul's second album, how and there was a record, it was like an article about how the second album is really this sort of test of the artist's longevity, is what that second album really does to a fan. It either can make you or it can break you. They referenced Madonna's Like a Virgin because it was such a driving force for her career to keep to like, okay, now we need more because she's hot. Like she is going to be the sort of future of music for the foreseeable future. And she was not, I think, not only this album obviously, but the speed at which all of it was coming, right?
Mm-hmm.
So luckily this really wasn't like, let's say, the end of the record, so to speak, but it
Well, and it
definitely
also, I think it definitely, this album proved that she wasn't a one-hit wonder. So
right.
Right.
you had everyone sort of calling for the demise of Madonna after, oh, she's not going to be here forever. And then this album comes out and it's enormous to the point where generations of young girls are starting to dress like her. They have stuff in, like the tour. So obviously Virgin Tour was the supporting promotion for her on this, and it was huge. I mean, like it was people dressing up like her, and they've never stopped. And it's kind of fun that sort of cemented her in the pop culture. I also loved at the end of Stay where you get, and it's the only song on the record that has this, where it's like you get a little bit of that love me, and just a little bit of like almost like electro, where like that remix sound that she then eventually comes forward with when she starts releasing more mixes of stuff. But like you really didn't have that per se on the album, and that song gets that treatment where it's like a liberty you always like to say, I think that last song always alludes to what's coming down the road. And although True Blue wasn't really that, You Can Dance was.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like You Can Dance sort of like picked up on that one little moment of Stay, love me,
Yes, it
love me,
does.
and that's where that world continues. So it's fun to sort of see that Madonna was getting into that thinking, that mindset.
Yeah, it makes you wonder what other songs from Like a Virgin were remixed and considered for You Can Dance, because Over and Over is the one that got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
right?
and I think Tony, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't we have when Steven was on the show? Didn't he say he wanted Over and Over as a single, and the record company kiboshed it? But then she
Yeah,
was like, when they put it on You Can Dance, she wrote to him and was like, "You're welcome," because it was
Oh,
like it sort of got its proper
Second
dues.
Life. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think that I do remember him saying that that was like one of the standouts from that project.
I'm
And
sure he
yeah,
was happy that he got the residuals for that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, because the You Can Dance project was using different producers and remixers, and his was the one Over and Over was his imprint on that one.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when we also had Shep Pettibone come on, but that's another story.
Yes. So with the videos, as we've said, we got Like a Virgin, Material Girl, and then 10 years later, Love Don't Live Here Anymore. Again, I thought it was a missed opportunity considering how big she was that they weren't pushing out more videos for this.
Yeah,
Like if
don't
they
don't
were
forget that Dress You Up was released as a video
Live. I was
live too.
just about to
sure.
say that that played on MTV and American Bandstand and Friday night videos and Saturday morning videos. Like I saw that video
Yeah,
more than I ever saw the other two.
Well, and I guess that's because back then, live performance wasn't something that we were able to record on our cell phones and post on YouTube. Like none of those things existed. So in order to
Right.
see live performance, you had to go to
yeah,
MTV. And I mean, same thing. Like when uh, Truth or Dare came out, they released that Like a Virgin performance of her on the red bed as a video
video.
single for promotion. And so yeah, you didn't like that's what how you sort of got used to seeing it. But I mean, I always wanted it to be like a proper video that she like filmed specifically for the song as opposed to
yeah.
just like them recording her on stage. I was happy that we got it. And I still love the choreo. Come on. Choreo for
The
Dress You,
outfit.
the jacket.
I just remember
Yeah.
watching that video and seeing her like in a concert milieu and thinking, how do I get to go to one of those things? Like
Yeah.
how am I gonna be there? Especially, and also, at my age being a boy, like everybody there is like a girl dressed like Madonna. Like how could I possibly be there and not like, cause a commotion,
Yeah.
None of us saw a Virgin Tour, right? We were all too young. Our parents wouldn't dare take us. It
Wouldn't
was
have come anywhere near where I lived anyhow. So
I was
I
in
think
sixth
Austin.
grade and it played at this place in Houston called the Coliseum where they did wrestling every Saturday. So that tells you, how like what an upstart Madonna was at the time. But yeah, there was no way in hell anyone in my neighborhood was going to drive downtown to the Coliseum to see her.
Mhm. Oh, how cute.
Wait,
That's a
didn't that tour start here in Cincinnati? I
I
feel like
don't
it did. I remember it being close and the local radio station hang on, I'm gonna look it up because I feel like I remember
look
the
it up.
local radio station uh giving away tickets. Oh
And the
no,
tickets
Seattle.
the
It
tickets were
started in
so cheap
Seattle.
back then. Like it's so funny to see
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
$15, Like, oh my
Oh,
God.
it was here in Cincinnati, very close to my birthday in 1985. And I was like, what if I won tickets from WKEE?
Yeah.
Like, would one of my older cousins take me? But I didn't win. And it was in a crappy little venue that doesn't even exist anymore, the Cincinnati Gardens. Like not even downtown. Like it's in like a weird little, used to be in a weird little neighborhood. It didn't even hold 10,000 people, but she sold it out.
Mhm.
Mm. Oh, well, and I love like I looked at the set list for Virgin Tour and I was surprised at how little the album was actually represented on there. I think there's like 4 songs that she did from the like a Virgin album. And I'm like, they didn't have her do more. You'd think that she would have sung like, Angel at least, like she didn't do any like she did Dress You Up and I think Like a Virgin and Material Girl. And I think there was like one other song from the album that she put on. And
She did Over and Over in that show.
yes,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
other than that, like I'm surprised that she didn't do like Love Don't Live Here Anymore or it's strange to think that. Oh, Ben, we've lost your
Uh,
audio.
yeah, I pushed the wrong button. She did all the one-offs like Into the Groove, Gambler,
Mm-hmm.
Crazy for You. Like it was funny that those songs got the highlight. Well, because she co-wrote them.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly,
So,
exactly. Yeah. They strong armed her into doing Like a Virgin and Material Girl, but otherwise she's like, I'm not doing those. The ones
Yeah.
that I did. Well, I'll dress you
Right.
up. I mean, you know.
She wasn't known as this like, strong businesswoman for nothing. I mean, I think that
Yeah.
that was a
right.
very early message that we received, that there was somebody in control and it's going to be her.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and when she went on tour, she was one type of artist. When she finished the tour, she was a superstar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And of course, as we know, the looks that
Mm.
came with this album, it's definitive Madonna. It's,
It's the looks
definitive
that you still
80s.
see every time you go to the shows.
Hmm.
The women my age, or
Tutus,
even young
Tool.
people, they're still doing this look, the look from the VMAs, the wedding dress idea, or this sort of poofy skirt with a bustier top, and um which is amazing that it lasts so long.
Hmm.
This look has such longevity. When I always thought of it as like sort of like it sits in one space in my mind, and beyond that I don't think of that as, when I think of Madonna, that's not what I think of, but obviously I'm the big, fan that I am. So others, they
Well,
still
you've evolved,
crave
but
that
some
look.
people are
Yeah.
still there.
Yeah.
They're still there, like
Yeah.
that's the Madonna that they loved. And
Yes.
And when you think
Yeah.
about it, it was rather a short era, because as soon as the tour was over, she cut her hair and she went to China,
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was like, okay, thank you guys. I'm gonna be platinum blonde now,
mhm. Yeah, she moved quick back then. It was like we just got stuff nonstop over and over. It was the onslaught of Madonna in that time, which again, she didn't waste time because she knew that, like, not that there was a shelf life, because I think back then in the 80s, like albums lasted a lot longer, which is why it was surprising that she was shuffling stuff out so much, because when you look at some of the albums, like people would be like touring an album for 3 years, or
Yeah.
like you'd hear songs from stuff forever and ever and ever. So yeah, it's fascinating that she was so insistent on coming out with new.
Yeah, and
Okay.
and she also had Vision Quest and Into the Groove at the same time, so it was like there was music coming from three different directions. So, why stand
Yeah.
still?
Well, and that's what that I was going to touch on that, because what if in the reissue she pulls all the material from that time period together and like completely resequences the album? Like, how will that change our interaction with it, right? Like,
Yeah.
think about Like a Virgin, if it had Gambler and Crazy for You and Into the Groove, along with some of the other songs that we know were recorded for those different things and didn't make it. Oh, that would be
Well,
interesting.
right. Like, say Like a Virgin was released today, what we would have gotten, the 9 songs would have been the original, and then we would have gotten like a deluxe version, and all
Right,
of those songs
right.
would have become deluxe. But they didn't have that. They didn't do that back then. Like we would have gotten maybe like a Virgin, like with Kylie releasing, Tension 2. Like it would have been like a Virgin 2.0, and we would have gotten extra stuff. And um, I mean, I'm all for that. Like give
Yeah.
me a
Fair to
I
me.
just
cohesive
think
one place.
it'll change the creative, because I feel like the stuff that came out after the songs are so much better. I mean, Crazy
Mhm.
for You and Gambler and Into the Groove are just like solid platinum Madonna energy and songwriting and vocals. Like, yeah. Huh.
But these,
Hmm.
I mean, the songs that did land there, it's not for naught that they're there. I mean, honestly, they sort of stratosphered her instantly.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not, and those other songs sort of bring in a different kind of attention, if you will, to her artistry. So this is the commercial side for Like a Virgin. It attracts the standard consumer. These other songs attract the deep fans, right? The fans who are looking, like, again, hungry for more. Come on, let's go, keep it going, because I'm gonna seek out. Gambler isn't something that a lot of people, I wouldn't say, the casual fan think about on
Yeah.
at the ready, right? But the big, the fans who are like the longevity big fans that, wave the Madonna flag forever. It's a song that people love, like Sidewalk Talk too, right? It's like, oh, I know about that one, or I know it, and it speaks to us because it's a different side of it's not as commercial, so to speak.
Mhm.
Not that it couldn't have been, it just isn't.
I love Sidewalk Talk.
Me
Yeah.
too.
I do too.
Such a good song. Well, Ben, was there anything that we needed to address in the comments?
At this point, well, there was some talk because somebody said something about she didn't do Angel on the Virgin tour, but actually, so that I was like, wait, what was the set list? She did do Angel, Borderline, and Burning Up, but they weren't included on the VHS because
Yes.
the tapes could only be so long back in the day. We forget the limitations of the technology. But mostly everybody's just like, I was too young to go, which is so fascinating, right? The
Yeah.
audience for this kind of conversation and this kind of medium is going to be people in a certain age range who like have these memories. Yeah, but otherwise, everybody's just kind of echoing the same thing, like just how big 85 was and just all the content. And yeah, just it was a vibe. It was a time.
Yeah, it was a good time. Pop culture was really exploding back then.
Yeah. And I do remember, like, I remember just recently that there was some footage that was nice quality, like somebody had filmed of one of those songs that isn't on the it surfaced on some Instagram, and I wish that I'd saved it because I don't even remember exactly which one it was now. It's one of the ones, I think it's Angel probably, that isn't on the VHS or isn't on the version that was released.
I'm sure it was probably like Tag Police. Like the Tag Police are usually pretty good with posting stuff that on Instagram that like normally you don't see
Yeah.
stuff.
I
I'm sure
wanna
it's out
say
there. It's got to
it
be out
was
there
a
somewhere.
fan account, but I can't remember now who had it, but and then there were a lot of comments saying like, "Oh my gosh, if this exists, then hopefully those others, because nobody has or no one has seen them."
Nobody has
Well,
them.
presumably the entire show was filmed and then it was
Right.
just edited down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Here's hoping for the
wow.
reissue. Hey, there you go. What a great gift if they're gonna do a reissue to show us something we've never had. Here's a video for Angel.
Right. And I mean, just to think, we just celebrated bedtime stories, and even on her Facebook, there was like this little kind of a hint at
Girl,
something's coming.
where is the merch for Bedtime
I
Story?
know,
Where
like
is the merch for Like a Virgin 40? Like TikTok, like why aren't these things out right now? Like, hello, it's just I
I
don't
don't know.
yeah,
I just think she doesn't like to think about her work in a time frame because then
maybe.
you have to admit your own mortality in a way. Like, I get it. Like,
I don't know though.
I don't
Like just
know.
I mean, I guess fine, we got a Like a Virgin t-shirt for celebration. So maybe that was like the nod
Yeah.
to Like a Virgin, but I like to quote Madonna, I want more.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to know like what was that?
Yeah,
And
what is that bedtime story? Well, I mean, is the bedtime story surprise the the record store vinyl? I think that's what it
right.
is.
But I
I
mean,
think that's what it is. Right,
say
just
I mean,
tell
that,
us.
I
like
Transparency, people.
yeah.
I gave up on that ghost of the myth of the reissues from Warner Brothers. I think what we got is what it is just the singles being released digitally. I mean, what it's been 3 years, guys, you know?
Yeah.
I
No, I don't.
think no, I'm telling you, I think those reissues were meant to come out while she was working on the movie, but then that movie got kiboshed
Mhm.
and it changed the rollout because they don't. That's why she then was like, "Fine, I'll go on tour now," even though the tour was supposed to come after. I think I still swear that the timeline was meant to be while she's working on the movie, reissues were going to come out, and then that way it would sort of like drum up excitement for the tour. Then she'd go on the tour after the movie promotion had wrapped and she'd won her Oscar for best song, and we would have had like that new song from her and Patrick Leonard that everyone would have been like, finally, and we all would have been happy. I know this is what
I
happens.
don't think any of
Although,
that was
What
going to
Yeah.
happens.
happen.
And
No,
then we would have got,
although,
and then we would have gotten the reissues that way. But I think the reissues are
no.
coming. I think they're still coming.
Pat
Really? I mean,
Leonard,
I think Warner just sold the assets to Rhino. Rhino distributed the singles
She's
digitally.
playing Tony. She's playing a long con. She wants you to believe They're
Okay.
not coming out. And then years later, when we've forgotten that it was ever mentioned, that
I
You
just
mean when
years
she's
later, all
dead?
of a sudden it's
yeah,
like,
I mean,
surprise, here
Well,
they
listen.
are. And we'll be like, Liberty, can you wheel me over to that record player? I can't hear it with my hearing. Like, we'll be so old, we won't even remember that she said she was
yeah,
gonna.
I don't know. It's been 3
Yeah,
years,
we'll
and I
forget
feel
that
like,
she's dead.
yeah, I don't think it's something where Pete just walks into a room and says, "All right, everybody, we're working on reissues today." You know, it's
Well,
like
I don't
I just,
know. I mean, look,
Yeah.
Pat Leonard just resurfaced on Instagram, so
Uh-huh. You saw that. I'm telling
I
you,
did.
follow the breadcrumbs,
Yeah.
people.
That's me and my tinfoil hat fits very
I
well.
was gonna say, you two and your tinfoil
I was gonna
hats
say,
on
my
this one.
breadcrumbs are in a circle. I'm
I
just
don't
gonna,
care. I
oh, here we go
admit it.
again. Wait, did we pass this tree? I think we're passing it again. Oh, wait, here we are. Where are we? Oh, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. It's
I
fine.
just don't.
I'm
Yeah.
keeping the faith. It's the only thing getting me through these dark days,
we
Ben.
don't even have a remastered version of Who's That Girl, so it's like, come on.
I don't know. I
All
just like
right.
to stay optimistic when it comes to
Yeah.
Madonna because honestly, she doesn't really let me down. So, and it's the one little space in my life where I feel free to be who I am,
Hmm.
to sing what I like to sing, to belt "Love Don't Live Here Anymore" in my car. You know, it's she gives me license in so many ways
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
great happy euphoria feelings. So, let me build a mystery for a second.
Yes, totally.
Well, thanks for joining us, everyone, on our trip back in time to 1984 with this. It's a great album. Go listen to it again if you have been
Yeah.
listening to it. It'll turn 40 on Tuesday, so we'll all be one Madonna mindset on Tuesday.
Yeah.
And remember, everybody, you can find us on Instagram, X, and Threads at MLVC Podcast. If you'd like to donate to the show, run Venmo to MLVC Podcast. If you've not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, tick that subscribe button so you never miss a video. Thanks for joining us, everybody. It's been fun. Until next time, remember, when those clouds come in and try to darken our days, I'll always want you to stay. But take care, everybody. Until next time, you three, stay there.
All right.